Welcome in, everybody, to Betting Pros. It's time to place your bets. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pisapia, and this is BP NFL. With me, as always, to talk props for Week 16 in the NFL, my boys, The Undertaker, Andrew Erickson, and the Welsh. And we're going to take a look at some of the Week 16 games that are looming. Lots of playoff implications, some standalone Saturday games. It's a good time right now. Make sure you're subscribing to the Betting Pros YouTube channel as well. Make sure you ring the bell for notifications because we got all the college football bracket stuff going on here. We got NBA stuff going on here. We got a lot going on. And there was a lot going on last night, including a free kick, something that hasn't happened in my lifetime, your lifetime, maybe most of the people's lifetimes watching this show. And it was cool. I liked it. It was fun. I don't think anybody was possibly happier than Jim Harbaugh, who seemed to be waiting for this his entire coaching career in the press conference, which was pretty hilarious. So Erickson, what'd you think of the free kick last night in the Chargers rebound against the Denver Broncos?
I absolutely loved it. I loved how the broadcasters talked about it. Did teams even practice? And the first thing Sean Payton says after the free kick is like, yeah, we prepare for this every single week. We get ready for the free kick that hasn't connected in 50 years because, of course, they practice for it. So I thought it was fun. Anything that's like different. I know I explained it to my wife and she pretended to care. And then I knew that she was the one for me because she's like, oh, like free kick. That sounds kind of cool. I knew she was lying, but it made me feel good because this hasn't happened in 50 years. Like, this is cool. And he made it too. Like if he had missed it, that would have been a bummer.
Well, that was what I was going to say. Well, could you imagine that there's like, here you go. Nobody's, rushing the kicker. It is literally a free kick. And yet in the back of your mind, you're going, oh, what if he misses this? What a horrendous situation this would be. So, I mean, let's talk about that for a second, because the incredible high of getting that moment only to kind of have it go by the wayside, perhaps, with the way kicking has been so terrible in 2024. And look, the last couple of years probably too, but he did make it. So everything was pretty on board there. But again, something that a lot of us didn't even know existed and have never seen actually executed in our lifetimes. In 1976, he was going to make that, I think they said, right?
He was going to make that from 70. Yeah, but that's my only issue with this whole thing, though, is they're talking about it. They weren't explaining it. Like, I get conceptually, like, it's a free kick. They're like, oh, man, guys, could this be a free kick? We haven't seen this in 50 years. Then explain it. Say that all the guys have to line up like it's a kickoff. They didn't explain anything, that it's going to be put on a tee. There was literally no breakdown. They just kept saying free kick. If there was a drinking game, everyone is passed out and still struggling today because they're like, oh, free kick. Because you can believe it. It should be a free kick. Like, what? What are we doing? What is different about the free kick? Why is it free? Why doesn't it cost? I don't know. I thought it was just like so overblown. And then, yes, he made it. And like I said, it would have made it from like 70 or 75.
You know, there's a better that's been betting on will there be a free kick in every single game through every NFL slate, and he finally emerged victorious.
I don't know if that
there's somebody out there. I mean,
for the last 50 years.
I don't think that's available. I don't. Again, remember 50 years. I don't even think the sites would know what that is because they didn't explain it.
You can be damn sure it's going to be on there this week.
Oh yeah, right.
Copycat league. All right, before we move on to Week 16. Any final thoughts from last week? Erickson, I know you were painfully close to something that fell just a little short, a little Bryce Young action that kind of bit you in the rear end.
Yep, so 3-2 overall. So winning week, still positive. Jalen Hurts let me down. He did not throw an interception. And Bryce Young came up half a yard short of the rushing prop. So that was very disappointing. And I know that Welsh also has feelings about the Carolina Panthers that basically were underwhelming. They were on the money line. They were supposed to win. They lost. And I know that Welsh also lost out on a bet because of the Carolina Panthers.
Yeah, 3-2 also would have been 4-1, half of a yard. Adam Thielen was 51.5 and he finished at 51. So ended the week 3-2. It's been very profitable over the last month or whatever. But like that one hurt. Like the Tua process was bad. He stunk. He looked awful. Some of those, I'm kicking myself for not laddering CeeDee Lamb. CeeDee Lamb crushed, as did Russ Wilson. He hit that one great. Thielen one hurts just a tiny bit. That's the one where you're like, you don't even focus on you having a positive winning weekend when you lose by a half a yard by a guy. But both of us 3-2, Erickson, we'll take that.
All right, just like Bill Belichick, we're on to Cincinnati. We're on to Week 16. And of course, we're going to be using the prop bet cheat sheet. If you haven't played around with it, make sure you do. It's the best place to get all of your props. You can take the matchups, the odds, you can sort everything, positions, whatever you're looking for. It's so easy to find, and you're going to find the projections with the best line, where to bet it. And it makes life so much easier. So use the prop bet cheat sheet. Go to bettingpros.com/props, or if you already have the app, which you should have downloaded the app anyway and use the free tools there for the premium side for a couple days. Did I mention it's free? And you also get the opportunity to use the prop bet cheat sheet there. It is an invaluable asset and something you should be using for the rest of the NFL season into the playoffs. All right, let's start here. Welsh, I can't believe you're kicking things off here with the 49ers. Like, you just hate yourself that much? Is that where we're at right now? Is that what just like continuing to just beat yourself up? I mean, just let it go. I thought you let the season go last week, it felt like. I'm
not betting that they're going to win.
Okay.
And I'm not betting Deebo Samuel. So I don't hate myself that much. Like, if I want to hate myself, if you want to hate yourself, bet Deebo Samuel receiving yards or anytime
I bet
touchdown.
He has 120
you go down that
this
road.
Week. I mean, it's just so clear the overcorrection.
3 touchdowns, 100%.
Amazing.
So no, but what I am going to, and maybe it is a little self-hatred to it, but there's actually just a lot of like situational stuff why I like this one. Brock Purdy over passing touchdowns 1.5 this week, and it's plus money. And that's what really I like about it. Not to mention we've had a lot of bad weather stuff that's been going on recently. There's some bad weather games that are going on this weekend. It ain't in the Dolphins and the 49ers game. It should be nice and clear. Dolphins have given up 2 passing touchdowns in 2 of their last 3 games. Brock Purdy really hasn't. And that's obviously why this is plus money at this point. You throw in like the bad weather game and just the overall poor performance in general. But they're going into a spot where Juwan Jennings, 13th best cornerback to wide receiver matchup this weekend. George Kittle graded out, that's on PFF, by the way. George Kittle graded out on PFF as the number 1 tight end from advantage standpoint. They graded him a 68% matchup advantage. For perspective, that is 20% higher than the next tight end. That's how far we are going on this one. And then when I'm talking about like, the situational thing, I just like that they don't have a running back. They're down 4 of them. Isaac Guerrero is not going to play. You're going to go to Patrick Taylor, maybe Abanikanda, maybe a little bit of Deebo Samuel. I think what that is going to end up establishing is not an established running game. They're going to have to throw the ball. And there's an advantage with Juwan Jennings, with George Kittle. I like this. Dolphins are giving it up. I think they're going to sling it. There's also, Mike McDaniel, Kyle Shanahan, kind of back and forth. I actually do think there's going to be some points scored in this game, but obviously I have weird blind spots sometimes with the Niners. But plus money, Brock Purdy on 2 touchdowns against the Dolphins. Yep, that's going to be my number 1.
Yeah, and Purdy for the year has been a bit of a road warrior, actually. He's been much better on the road in terms of QBR and all the stats. Exactly. So that being said, Andrew Erickson, looks like you are piggybacking on the Brock Purdy front as well for Week 16.
Yeah, I like the over on Brock Purdy's passing yards, 242.5 passing yards. I think that the number's kind of suppressed just because of the last couple weeks where they've been bad. He had an injury he was dealing with. He's played in a couple bad weather games. They're playing in Miami. Nice and sunny. It's going to be great. The weather's going to be fine. They're 2 teams that have been underwhelming, but I think that they're going to take their frustrations out on the opposing defenses. I really think that's going to be the case here in this matchup. And I think the thing to point out with Brock Purdy is, so he's gone over this number in 6 of 9 games with George Kittle, with Deebo, and Juwan Jennings, like, all in the lineup. So when he has all of his guys, even Deebo to an extent, like, he usually goes over this number. And I think that you're just getting a good value on it because of in recent weeks where he's been under in 3 of 4 because of the things I pointed out, injuries and weather, which I don't think are going to be factors in this particular matchup. And I think from a next gen stats point of view, this is something I was looking at. So the Dolphins have played cover 2 at the 5th highest rate in the NFL this season. And if you look at what Purdy has done against that type of coverage, 9.2 yards per attempt against cover 2, 3rd most in the NFL. So I think they're just going to let it rip. They're down to their 4th string running back. Is this going to be Patrick Taylor, 20 carry? No. This is, hey, let's rip it with Brock Purdy. Let's beat up on this Dolphin. I mean, Aaron Rodgers threw for 300 yards against this Dolphins defense. The guy hasn't done it since the Ronald Reagan administration. Come on. So I like Purdy. So hand holding with Welsh here. Purdy's going to have himself a day.
All right, so Brock Purdy looking pretty good for Week 16. Let's talk about an investment in the New York Giants. Yes, that's correct. The New York Giants. So, again, you got to convince me here on this one. Drew Lock's playing quarterback. I mean, if you can't invest in Drew Lock and the Giants at this point, what can you invest in? Let's talk about Malik Nabers. The number for him is 67.5. You think Drew Lock can get this to an over. Let's talk about the why.
Yeah, well, I mean, why is we have gotten there. He has hit this in 3 straight games. We're talking about Malik Nabers over receiving yards, 67.5. He has hit this 3 straight games while receiving 37 targets over that time. In a row? No, but 37 targets. Falcons giving up the 10th most receiving yards to wide receivers so far this year. Falcons have also given up, if you care about this, the top 5 most fantasy points to wide receivers over the last month. And this is a big volume play. So, I'm tempted always with the receptions way more than you guys on some of these things. And I have some fun reception stuff coming up here. But with this one, that pure set of volume against a Falcons defense, like I said, 10th most receiving yards given up overall. We know he's getting targets. He's had double-digit targets in 3 straight games. He is hitting these numbers. Don't think this is a great team, but also think they're going to be playing from behind, even though you do have a rookie quarterback in there and Michael Penix starting. I think he's going to be efficient, and that just leads to them doing more throwing. It's always going to Malik Nabers. This is a relatively low number. Anything under 70, I think, is playable. As each yard went down, I felt more comfortable. 67 was a fantastic marker, so 67.5 over for Malik Nabers. That's number 2, but I get the hesitation.
Last week, Darnell Mooney was disappointing. This week, he has a different quarterback. So perhaps Michael Penix, who did have a penchant in Washington for making some big plays, whenever there's like a big throw to be made in a big moment, he is never afraid of it, which is something I love about Michael Penix. And I was kind of a defender of Michael Penix a lot last year on a lot of shows. And I enjoy watching him play quarterback. And I think this is a unique opportunity against a bad team for him to play through the nerves a little bit in the first half and then maybe settle in. But there's definitely some big play potential in there. And I know, Andrew, you and I have mentioned before, maybe looking for the over on the biggest pass yardage in a single play for Michael Penix being an interesting one because he does have that big play ability, looking for the over on his yards. But there's also a receiver that you feel has a good prop this week. It's Darnell Mooney. Let's talk about him.
Yeah, Darnell Mooney's going to go over 52.5 receiving yards because they're going to let it rip with Michael Penix Jr. They're going to show everybody why they took this guy, where they did, because this matchup is chef's kiss for deep ball receivers. Giants defense ranks dead last in EPA per target on passes of 20-plus air yards. And something that I want to point out about last week's matchup, the Raiders have been good defending the deep ball. So that kind of played into why Darnell Mooney was so disappointing, also considering Kirk Cousins is his quarterback and they decided to run the ball a million times and never throw. So that's the only way this beats me, would be they just don't get enough volume. But Mooney's not a volume-based receiver. He is a big play specialist, and no defense has been worse at guarding the deep ball than the New York Giants. So honestly, it would not surprise me at all. They go hard play action the first play of the game, and they just rocket it down the field to Darnell Mooney, get the crowd fired up in Atlanta for their new rookie quarterback. I think that the main takeaways from this game is going to be, well, they should have started Michael Penix months ago.
Well, but that's the problem, is like that could be the takeaway again's the New York Football Giants.
Yes, it's going to get way blown out of proportion. Then we're going to be fading the Falcons the week after.
I'm trying to think who they play next week, Erickson. Do you know off the top of your head?
I think.
Okay, so it's not going to make a difference. We're all going to get excited about Michael Penix maybe too much.
That's going to be money. Can I ask, is there any temptation, I was looking as you were starting this, to play the longest reception for Darnell Mooney? Just because, he did have that donut. 52 yards is a pretty aggressive marker off of that. 22.5 is the longest reception for Darnell Mooney. Boy, that feels kind of good, Erickson. Would that be something that you would suggest?
I would do
if
both.
Someone is scared off of the donut from Mooney?
I think both makes a lot of sense. I haven't.
Well, if you like the over, if you like the biggest total, then you might as well continue with the over on receiving too. That's just good logic, I feel like.
Yeah. So I haven't particularly dove into the longest receptions prop market this year, but I think that your point is very spot on. I think
I've only done one on this show and hit it with Devontae Smith, but it was under 20.
He does a lot of those on the Thursday nights. Of course,
he loves.
Last night was the first time in like 5 years that Gus Edwards had a run for more than 10 yards, and of course that was one of our prop bets yesterday. And then he had that big run, and it was just we were just
got hurt.
He
got hurt in that game too. We're like, oh, we're good to go. And he
texts me. He's like, I had Gus Edwards under yards, longest rush of 5 years. I was like, yeah, that's how it goes.
It's still nothing on Michael Penix rushing yards. As of right now on Friday recording, as I keep looking for rushing yards for Penix, I don't know what they're going to set it at. It could be a wide range. I think the number is going to be a little lower than it should be. In that first shot out of the gate, I would take the over on that too. I think he's going to get out in space a little bit. At one point, something's going to break down. He's going to have a run for at least 10 yards. And if he has one more over there, I think, you're looking at somewhere around 20 yards, I think, rushing for him potentially in this game against the Giants. All right, let's move on to the next pick. And just a quick reminder, too, you can always follow all of our picks, too, on BettingPros. Just put our name in the search tab, and you can follow Welsh, Erickson, myself, and look at all the things that we're in on this week. For better or worse, we're having fun here. This is what we do. Let's talk about a Saturday game here. Let's talk about the Baltimore Ravens here. And you've got a prop on a running back, but it ain't Derrick Henry. It's Justice Hill, Welsh, for receiving yards, 18.5. So let's chat about this one.
Yeah, I love this one. 18.5 receiving yards on Justice Hill. Caught 4 passes or more in 3 of his last 4 games. He has hit this number in 2 of his last 4. Has beat this number 7 times this year. And by the way, he beat this number against the Steelers earlier this year. Steelers are giving up or have given up this number to 4 of the last 5 running backs that they've played. And this is the formula, especially with any of these running backs that are not Derrick Henry. They love to throw the ball to Justice Hill. I'm taking yards over receptions in this point. I believe it's at 2.5 on the receptions, and it might push to 3.5 because they do throw him the ball. Also, if you are a believer in the Lamar Jackson struggles, kryptonite of the Pittsburgh Steelers, even better, because then he's going to be less efficient. They're not going to be moving the ball. You're going to have a closer game, and you're going to have more dump offs to Justice Hill. Plus, like Derrick Henry is a monster, but the Pittsburgh Steelers are a pretty tough run defense. Don't be shocked when you see a little bit more Justice Hill and they start moving to a passing game. God forbid the Steelers were to get up in this game. But again, he hit this against the Steelers before. This is his primary role in the Baltimore Ravens offense. I love this one. Under 20, 18.5 is the over. Maybe you see it move a tiny bit more. One of my favorites.
All right, the New York Jets and Rams are going to face off this weekend. And last time we saw Matthew Stafford, things didn't look all that good. However, despite the fact he's coming off his second worst passing total of the season, last week just 160 yards. The only week that was lower than that was week 7 against Las Vegas, where he's at 154. You're confident in Matthew Stafford. Now, the Jets have been a top 8 or so defense in terms of receiving yards given up. So why are you looking for that bounce back this week? Is it just the motivation here of Stafford and the Rams to make that final playoff push?
Well, lately, the Jets haven't been that great against quarterbacks. 4 of the last 5 quarterbacks the Jets have faced have given up 265 passing yards, at least hit that number. And when you look at Stafford and what he's done when he's had his guys this year between Puka Nacua and Cooper Kupp, gone over this number in 7 of his last 9 starts. Now, obviously, last week didn't work out. All of my prize picks pick'ems all got burned to flames because I was pairing Brock Purdy with Matthew Stafford. Oh, this is a lock, baby. They got all their guys, and then the weather had different ideas. But I'm going right back to it because I don't think that the process was terrible. When they've had their healthy guys, receivers this year, they've been going over this passing yards. Not afraid of the Jets. 6th most deep passes faced this season. And I think an interesting way to play this actually is with the over on Cooper Kupp and his receiving yards, because every time Stafford has gone over this number, he's brought Cooper Kupp along for the ride. And you look at the Jets, worst defense against slot receivers this season. So if you want a little bit of a bigger payout, pair Matthew Stafford with Cooper Kupp and a little bit of correlated parlay action.
All right, let's get to the 4th pick for everybody here. And Welsh, for this next one, you got a little duo action. Let's talk about this. You seem very excited about this one, so I want to hear it.
Yeah. The next 2 I'm going to be throwing at you. I'm switching stuff up for some fun here, but I'm going to drop. I don't know if I've done this year because I used to do this last year. I'm dropping a reception parlay. Nothing crazy. 2 players who've got some juice numbers, and the reason they're juiced is because everybody likes them. We are pairing Chuba Hubbard receptions with Jalen Warren receptions, and we are getting over 2.5 each, plus one, but essentially 150. It's like 156. I had it. The number is going to vary when you guys lock it in. If you do, Cardinals are giving up the 10th most receptions to running backs on the year and the 5th most over the last month. So this is a Chuba thing. Chuba has caught 4 2 straight games and 3 of his last 5. Bank. Now we move to Jaylen, who has hit this in 3 of his last 5 games, including 4 against the Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore has given up the 8th most receptions to running backs on the year. And the Jalen Warren one is probably my most confident play if someone wanted to mess around with it, just simply because I don't think the Steelers are going to be able to really successfully run against this team. Jalen Warren is the better running back. They're going to throw to him. He caught 4 against Baltimore. It's at 2.5 with big juice. Don't love to play like minus 165s individually, but I do love pairing these 2 guys together. Chuba seems a tiny bit more risky, but hitting those in the last 2 since Brooks has been out, he is the top dog. Even when he struggles and disappoints me in fantasy and betting last week, he's going to get back to it, laying out why you can do that against the Cardinals. So 2.5 receptions on both Jaylen and Chuba. Get plus money, little reception parlay.
All right, let's go to New England here. The Patriots going to get their ass kicked by the Buffalo Bills, but the one good thing about the Bills is the defense continues to give up just points after points after points. So how do we translate that into a wager that makes sense with the Patriots side of things, Andrew?
I'm chasing the trend because we've been betting on this all year long. Bet on running back receiving props against the Buffalo Bills. I brought to the table last week Dave Montgomery, and he hit it, and he got injured in that game. But it didn't even matter because he still went over his receiving yards, and it actually moved up too before closer to kickoff. So for me, Rhamondre Stevenson, looking at his receiving yards, he's gone over 12.5 receiving yards in 5 of his last 7 games. And like I said, the Bills defense, top 3 in most yards, catches, and targets to running backs this season allowed in the passing game. We know the Patriots are going to be throwing in negative game script. And I think that Rhamondre, he could get this on the first drive. So over 12.5 receiving yards for me against the Buffalo Bills for Rhamondre.
Okay, so Rhamondre is on the ticket as well. Let's do one more, and then we'll get to the touchdown calls. Let's talk about those Eagles. Jalen Hurts, obviously, continuing to push this team forward. Right now, the Eagles, I think, are in the driver's seat, to tell you the truth, for this conference. I think they, win at the line on both sides of the football. They can run the football. You play defense, run the football. That's usually a good formula. So what do we want to do this week when it comes to Jalen Hurts and the Eagles, Welsh?
So we're going to do the thing that feels scariest with Jalen Hurts, and we're going to go with passing touchdowns. This is I don't think I've ever done something like this. This is a variant of a passing touchdown ladder that we're going to play. So the main play here, and I'll tell you why I got so excited, but the main play here is over 1.5 passing touchdowns, because it was plus 175. So almost 2-1 for that to hit. Jalen Hurts has hit this in 2 straight games. A.J. Brown is currently being given the 7th best wide receiver cornerback matchup if we're looking at him in general and that offense being able to pass. The Commanders have given up 6 touchdowns receiving over the last month. Commanders also have given up the second least fantasy points, just running out fantasy points for a second, to running backs over the last month, and the least rushing yards. So if the running game is taken away a little bit, they're going to be passing more. Hurts, this is my other stat I'm going to throw out here for a second. So that ends that. Over 2 touchdowns. He's hitting it. By the way, if you remember, the Commanders were just like absolutely atrocious at the beginning of the year. I love this spot. Now, I got all giddy when I was looking at his numbers because I've been peeking around at 3 touchdowns, and his 3 touchdown number is plus 750 this week. Plus 750. So take all of the 2 touchdown stuff we talked about. It's a great matchup. Commanders, they had the 5 touchdown given up game earlier in the year. Take all of that stuff in there. Just a fun little anecdotal thing in here. This is a sprinkle bet. This isn't anything crazy. I bet, my full unit size on Jalen Hurts, do a little bit of sprinkle when it's plus 750. But just as an anecdotal thing, Hurts every year of his career has had at least 1 game of throwing 3 or more touchdowns. Every single year of his career, except for this year. Things are starting to turn around. They're passing the ball better. Divisional game, by the way. I think he's got, for the last 4 years, 3 career games against Washington where he's thrown 3 or more touchdowns in a game. This is a game where the passing side gets right. 2 touchdowns is the play, almost 2-1. Little bit of a sprinkle on 3 touchdowns at 7.5-1 for Jalen Hurts against the Commanders. I love it.
Does the A.J. Brown ankle give you any pause whatsoever on this?
And if he's active, it doesn't.
Okay, well, there you go.
Well, I would say too, so it's actually interesting. I'm actually looking at some of the receivers for the Eagles because I was thinking about, okay, if he's throwing multiple touchdowns, who's it going to? And right now, I don't know if this is injury related. It must be, because you're getting plus 950 on Devonta Smith 2 touchdowns versus A.J. Brown at plus 1100. I also know that this time around, Lattimore is going to be active for the Commanders, and they're probably going to put him on A.J. Brown. So I kind of like some of these.
So you're turning this into a
well, I kind of like, where's the ball going to go? I don't know. AJB was last week, right? Like, that was his big. So, like, I'm thinking Calcaterra. I'm thinking Devontae Smith.
Well, how about another obvious one? How about another obvious one that I didn't even talk about in here? Saquon Barkley.
Honda.
If Saquon Barkley, but if Saquon Barkley is also not able to completely do this through the ground, as Washington has locked it down over the last month, Saquon Barkley is also the option. So I know exactly what you're saying here. And again, the 3 touchdowns is the risky thing. I don't think you should go anything nuts. I didn't go nuts with it. I love the 2 touchdowns here. Saquon, Devontae, or A.J. Brown, maybe not A.J. Brown. Love the 2 touchdowns. To me, it's a sprinkle on the 3 touchdowns because that is such a massively
it is also
big
cookie
number.
Season, so got to get those sprinkles in.
There you go. Got to get a little sprinkle in that. All right.
I met someone that said they don't like sprinkle. Like, they were like, not like, I don't like sprinkles, but we're like, sprinkles ruin cookies. And I was like,
what?
Really? They ruin them?
What's wrong with you? Get out of it. Get out of this country. You can't live
communist?
here. What's wrong with you? You don't like sprinkles.
They don't ruin. I mean, you can not like them, but they don't ruin.
Erickson,
what?
The last one you're going to talk about is one that I've already bet. I've got a little prop parlay as well. It's one of my favorites of the week. It's the Jared Goff passing yardage total. You got it at 255.5. You're going under. I'm going under. I'm with you. I think this game is going to get a little gross. Goff outside historically has not been good. The injuries to the defense, I just, I have my concerns here that this is going to be kind of just a weird, gross in-division game. And I think it's unfortunate. And I think it might be a game that maybe you don't want to watch that much of. But in terms of investing, I think this is the way to do it. And you seem to agree.
Yeah, I'm fading Jared Goff into oblivion this week. In fantasy, yeah. I'm like 10 spots below ECR on Jared Goff. I'm telling everybody to sit Jared Goff. Yeah, get through 5 touchdowns last week. You know who threw 5 touchdowns a week before they played the Bears? Sam Darnold. You know what he didn't do the next time he played the Bears? Didn't throw for 5 touchdowns again. So I'm not chasing last week's box score. I'm looking at this matchup, and traditionally Jared Goff, when he goes outside in the cold, there's also a little bit of precipitation now in the forecast in Chicago. I want no part of Jared Goff, and this number is just massive. 255.5 passing yards. Again, on the road this season. So this includes just dome road games as well. He's been 50% at this number. He already faced the Bears this year and he was under this number. When the one time he played outside this year, he was under 150 passing yards. So why is his number at 255 passing yards? I don't get it. And I know Jared Goff is going to rub it in my face probably, but I don't care. I think that this game is going to be gross. Like you said, the total is 48 points. I think that's out of control. I don't know why it's so high, but yeah, I'm going to bet against Jared Goff this week in the fantasy football semifinals, taking the under on his passing yards, and we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I also think that Amon-Ra, after that huge week 2, people are going to be running to bet him again, and I don't know. I would be looking more for the under on his too. Maybe we're wrong. Maybe Goff has really turned the corner on these things, but historically speaking, those numbers, it is a really big data set that suggests that this could be a rougher day for the Lions. Do I think they're going to lose to the Bears? No. Do I think it's going to be a gross game? It's very possible. I think it's definitely in the range of outcomes, as our friend Derek Brown likes to say. All right, let's get to the touchdowns. And of course, if you're looking for an edge when you're betting touchdowns, go to bettingpros.com/touchdown. That's easy to remember. And check out the touchdown scorer report. The report compares anytime touchdown stats to prop bets, odds, and projections to help identify the best anytime touchdown bets that you can make. So again, bettingpros.com/touchdown for the latest touchdown prop bet analysis. I'm going with BTJ for one of my picks today, plus 165. Mac Jones, baby. Look, this is really more, against the Raiders than anything else. I think this is a good matchup here that Mac Jones could be useful yet again. And last week, look, he's been showing you since he's taken over that he can find BTJ in these spots. Strange is banged up too, so I think BTJ is kind of the only hope right now. He's the Obi-Wan Kenobi of this offense. And then I've already picked the Tennessee Titans, I think, in an upset. I think the Titans, I don't know why, I just got this weird feeling. I was like, oh yeah, it's just the Colts, it's just the Colts. Man, the Colts find ways to lose games every single week, and Anthony Richardson's just all over the place. Titans play a little defense, and I think with Mason Rudolph back, there's 2 bets here with wide receivers. You could take one of the 2, whatever floats your boat. You could take both of them because they're both plus 180. NWI for life. Nick Westbrook-Akine, who's been a little touchdown drought lately. He's due. And then Calvin Ridley at plus 180 as well. So you could take one or both, but I think Mason Rudolph is going to surprise some people. And in some super flex leagues, maybe carry some people to the finals, believe it or not, because people have been desperate for some quarterbacks. Look, can he get 15 points against the Colts? Yes, he can. So we'll see how that goes. Welsh, let's talk about your touchdown calls for week 16.
Well, I'm going to pair what I talked about with Brock Purdy. I'm going to move over to George Kittle. Love the matchup. The best offensive advantage, and George Kittle is a touchdown magnet in general. Brock Purdy, really, as much as like the deep option of what Juwan Jennings does, Brock Purdy is at almost all times, George Kittle almost at all times, like the number 1 option for Brock Purdy. So I'm going to go with an anytime touchdown on George Kittle in that nice weather at plus 155. And my deep play here, 3-1, give me Craig Reynolds. Without David Montgomery, Craig Reynolds comes in, probably going to see a little bit of that. I don't think he's going to just take in the David Montgomery touches. That team, unless they're going to be silly gooses, are not going to do that. You're going to just give more run to Jahmyr Gibbs. But don't be surprised when Jahmyr Gibbs gets them to the line, and then in comes Craig Reynolds from the 2, playing that David Montgomery after Gibbs had the whole drive, and everyone screams and complains about the vulturing. I'll take a 3-1 in that Bears matchup you guys keep talking about as well. Bears garbage against the run. So that's the play. If Jared Goff, if the Lions are going to win the game, the total's so high, Jared Goff's going to stink. Amon-Ra St. Brown's going to stink. Someone has to be good. Jahmyr Gibbs is clearly going to be good. Yeah. You can also run against this team. Craig Reynolds is going to get an opportunity. So 3-1 on his touchdown call. That's my favorite deeper play.
I really like the Reynolds one a lot. All right, let's go real deep here because somebody's due, Andrew Erickson, and you're the guy to break him out. I feel it. I feel it in my bones. Let's go, baby.
Never wrong, just early. Trey McBride going back to the well here. He's going to score a touchdown this week, and I think he's going to score touchdowns in bunches because the Carolina Panthers have allowed the most touchdowns to tight ends this season. This is so clearly on the Cardinals' mind. Every time they talk about Trey McBride, they're like, man, this guy doesn't have any touchdowns. Kyler Murray tweeted out, or he was talking about in an interview, like, yeah, we got to get 85 in the end zone. Like, it has to happen. And what better defense to do it than against the Carolina Panthers, who are the kings of allowing the regression to hit. 2022, Joe Mixon couldn't score a touchdown, played the Panthers, scored 5 touchdowns. At the end of the season, Mike Evans was terrible all year long, plays the Panthers, scores 3 touchdowns. This is the spot where guys blow up in regression hits, going in all in on Trey McBride. I want first touchdown. I want 2 touchdowns. I want 3 touchdowns. I want it all. Right. So Trey McBride, I'm all in, and you'll know how my day is going around.
He just became Veruca Salt. He's like, I want it now.
I want a Trey McBride touchdown now, Father.
I do.
I want 2, Father. I don't want 1. Yeah. I want 2.
Sure thing, Andrew. Whatever you want there. Whatever you want, I'll get it for you. I'll certainly get it for you. How depressing is it going to be if he doesn't get a touchdown again?
No. Then I'm going to be very sad and not richer.
Well, give us another tight end just to have some more fun here.
So I guess I'm pushing back on you because you like the tight again. I've kind of come full like 180 on the Titans. I think earlier in the week, on the live stream, I talked about, I like the Colts. And then I dove more into the matchup and I can't back the Colts. Like I like the Titans too. I know what to expect with Mason Rudolph. Again, it's Christmas season, Mason Rudolph. It's a great story, yada, yada, yada.
Always.
So, but I'm going
He always shows up every December to save the day, sort of.
I'm going a different route with the receivers. I like Chigakonkwo as the anytime touchdown bet. So he's plus 400 to score. So you're getting a longer odds than the receivers. Tyler Boyd is hurt. Nick Westbrook-Ikini is also banged up. So I don't even know what those guys are going to play. And he had 13 targets last week. If you include all the penalties, he had 8 from Mason Rudolph. So he's been on a heater last couple weeks. The Colts have also been a team where I know they're favored, but they've actually given up a lot of first touchdowns to the opposing team. So you can get Chigakonkwo at pretty bonkers odds for first touchdown score if Mason Rudolph looks to him. And in 3 starts with Mason Rudolph, because I remember this very vividly for betting on the Titans, they scored in the first quarter in all 3 of the games that he started. Like the scripted drive they have with Mason Rudolph works, and then they just don't score after that. So I think there's a lot of first touchdown opportunities with this Tennessee Titans offense, which is another reason why I can't back the Colts. And I like the Titans potentially with the upset as well.
I got a weird feeling we're going to see some oddities in week 16. It's just, I don't know. I think yesterday I feel like Thursday Night Football sometimes every now and then will set the tone for how the rest of the week is going to go. Like, would it shock me if the Giants somehow beat the Falcons? No. It would have shocked me if Tennessee Titans won? No. It would shock me if the Carolina Panthers won? No. None of those things would shock me at all this week. So buckle up, everybody. It's going to be a fun ride week 16 here. Things are not done at all. Have a great weekend, everybody, watching the football. We'll be back again, of course, next week for more action. Don't forget to subscribe to BettingPros wherever you get your podcasts, and, of course, to the YouTube channel as well. And, of course, drop your comments below. What picks are you making? What's your favorite prop of the week? We want to hear you. And don't forget to ring that bell for notifications so you know every time a piece of content drops here on the channel. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For the Welsh and Andrew Erickson, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.
I want it now!
Father?